Hey everybody, this is Bob with Trade Genius. I got Phil with me, another edition of our podcast. Something happened with Bitcoin over the weekend that's never happened before, and people are really, really worried about it. Stay tuned, we'll explain.
Trade Genius.
Hey guys, I want to tell you something that we do that really will change the way in which you look at trading and also absolutely help you increase your profitability and how much money you make. It's the Trade Genius newsletter. We put the newsletter out Sunday night through Thursday night, and this really looks at the plumbing of the markets and helps prepare you for the next trading day and help you make money. And we give you a lot of information. We give you market statistics, we give you market levels, we give you the seasonality, what's happening with different sectors of the market, and we will help you identify whether the market's in a bear mode or a bull mode, or whether it's euphoric, whether it's despondent, and it just puts you in a position to be on the right side of the trade. So take advantage of our offer that we have below, and you'll love it. I mean, one trade that you make with this thing can pay for definitely a month, maybe even a year's worth of service. It's that powerful. Use promo code podcast for 15% off the retail price of newsletter. Thanks for listening.
Okay, Phil, we had a really interesting thing here between the payment and subsidy with Bitcoin on this block, and people are just all over the place. People think it's the second coming of Jesus Christ, and other people think apocalypse now. Can you give us some perspective?
Yeah, exactly. People think that, it's destroying the Bitcoin network. So let's just break down what the realities are. So this isn't the first time that the Bitcoin network has been spammed. If you recall back when I think Bitcoin Cash had broken off in that contentious fork, the Bitcoin network was being spammed with a lot of small transactions. And, that's part of the network, that is a possibility. But, it's kind of a self-deterrent thing because it costs a lot of money to do that over time. So yes, you can have these periods where that happens, but over time, it's just not feasible and you're going to run out of money doing it, right? So, because you're really just peeing money away. That's what you're doing. What's happening here this time is because of the Bitcoin ordinals. Now, what is an ordinal? Ordinal is what the NFTs are to Bitcoin, okay? So Ethereum has NFTs, Bitcoin has ordinals. Same thing. They're assigning basically metadata to the blocks, and then those are being passed to the network. So you can have a lot of little transactions that create a lot of little ordinals, and those things add up over time and basically fill up the mempool. If you don't know what the mempool is, that's basically where all the transactions go to get confirmed. And if the network's, not really busy, then that's fairly empty. Transactions go through pretty quickly and fees are minimal. Well, we're seeing now where the fees are outpacing the actual block reward. And that's what hasn't happened before, even back when we had the Bitcoin Cash fork. And we can see that here with some of these blockchain explorers. But you can see here where the total fees was 6.701 BTC. All right. And that's incredible. Now, that's also an interesting point too, because there's been people discuss, once the final Bitcoin rewards are doled out, right? And the miners don't have any more Bitcoin rewards, what's their incentive? But I think this shows you that with enough transactions on the Bitcoin network, and we're talking that scenario is decades down the line, but you figure the Bitcoin network is going to continue to grow and continue to be adopted. So this is just showing you that if we can get to this point now, where we are replacing the blockchain or the mining subsidy, the mining reward, right? If we're already being able to replace that just through transaction volume, then they should be able to continue to be profitable down the line, just approving transactions, even though, let's say, the last of the Bitcoin's mined, or it's just to the point where there's so little Bitcoin being rewarded that the mining reward from the block subsidy isn't really that profitable anymore. But this is showing us that, enough transactions can definitely replace that. So that's actually a good thing. So back to this, is this going to really mess up the network? I think like anything else in the Bitcoin network, it's got its self-healing and self-deterrent mechanisms. If the mining capacity gets too large too quick, then the difficulty raises, right? And then it starts to slow down the rate of inflation. It's just what it does every 2 weeks. It's sort of self-healing. On the other hand, if the Bitcoin network drops a lot in value and miners start shutting off machines in mass, then the difficulty drops, and then it makes it a lot easier to mine Bitcoin, and then the miners come back online when it's profitable. So there's always this, the design of Bitcoin is very eloquent in that it kind of self-heals, or there's self-deterrence to keep everybody in line, and there's an economic incentive to that. So if you're going to spam the network, it's going to be very costly. If it costs too much to mine, sooner or later it won't cost too much to mine. And that's the beauty of the the Bitcoin network. It's got these kind of built-in features to keep everything regulated.
Hey, Phil, can I throw some questions at you?
Mm-hmm.
So my first question is that if this becomes a thing, and we've talked about this before, and will this be a situation where if you're a small holder of Bitcoin, you're going to get bullied out by the bigger traders out there, or is that just a non-issue?
Well, I think that, in terms, if you're a small hodler, let's say, I mean, it depends what you're doing. If you're just hodling, this means nothing, right? Because you're looking, you may take profit later in the future. Big whoop did he do? Even if you were to, all this means is that the transaction, like if you went to sell your Bitcoin, it's just going to cost a little more than it has, historically. That's it. As far as trading goes, when you send your Bitcoin to the exchanges, okay, once it's there, you've paid for that transaction to get to the exchange. Once it's on the exchange, you can trade back and forth, and then it's just down to exchange fees because the exchanges are just shuffling, basically balances around amongst their hot wallets and, keeping track of profit and loss and this and that. So, there's, other than exchange fees, this doesn't really affect that. What this affects is withdrawals and deposits, okay? And so that can be an issue. Let's say if a bad actor wants to spam the network and they want to prevent people from being able to deposit to exchanges or withdraw from exchanges, let's say. And let's say it's just kind of like they're trying to coordinate a larger thing where they cause potentially maybe a crash or something like that, where a bunch of leverage liquidations happen and people can't navigate in and out of the exchanges. You could maybe make a case for that possibly, but again, it's very, very expensive what's going on here. And if it's one actor, they're spending millions of dollars per day to try to spam the network. And I haven't gotten all the details. There's still a lot of information coming out yet on what exactly. I mean, we can kind of tell that, it is ordinals. So is it just one actor or is it a bunch of people just piling in on the ordinals? To me, that's not super clear just yet. And if you guys are listening to this and you have some information on that, I'd love to hear from you down below. But I think over time, this is going to go away, Bob, and then we're going to get back to kind of normal, operating procedures on Bitcoin. But as far as like hodling or even your trading, if you're on the exchanges, it shouldn't affect much. Where it becomes an issue though is if people are starting to panic and they want to withdraw or get their money to, or get their Bitcoin to the exchanges because they want to cash out in a hurry, that kind of thing. That can be an issue. Other than that, though, I think this is just going to go away.
Okay, yeah, good. That's really interesting because it brings up another question for me then, that as you know, I like trading the Bitcoin miners on the markets, but I saw this as potentially really positive down the line that these guys have like long-term business plans. Is it because the question I always ask you, so what happens when we get down to where there's like hardly any more Bitcoins to win? How are these guys going to make money? Well, when I saw this, I immediately said, oh, well, this is how they're going to make money, is that they're just going to be a transaction processor. And I would think this would give legs to, companies with the cheapest electricity and the best equipment. And so like companies that, are positioning that way are really the ones that we want to trade on. I just want to get your thoughts on that.
I think we need to do a video on that with regards to the Bitcoin miners, because I think they're going to be some of the most valuable companies in the world in the future. People kind of raise eyebrows when I bring that up, but I really do think that's the case, and we'll talk about that more in the video. But you're absolutely right. He who has the cheapest power and he who has the cheapest hardware, we're going to be talking about the new Diamond Cartel going forward. I mean, that's a huge deal, and I think one of the biggest investment opportunities ahead of us going into the end of the decade, actually.
Well, good. Well, with that, let's wrap this up for today, Phil, and let's do our little bit of research on that. As you know, we've been playing around with some thoughts in this area. Maybe later this week we could talk about that so people can position. Just remember, don't jump out too far ahead because, Bitcoin probably has a bit of a pullback ahead of it here, but it might be soon to start adding a position in some of these miners, and we'll give you our thoughts. And also the pick and shovel makers too, the guys that drive the hardware and the software in this space as well. Remember, there's many ways to win in this environment, and we want to put you guys in the best position possible. So with that, Phil, I'm going to let you go. I know you got to hop on an airplane here. So guys, hit like, hit subscribe, hit notification, and just stay with us. Give us comments. Tell us what you want to talk about. Give us your thoughts on this. We'd love to hear it, even if you don't agree with us. You can't learn if you don't, if everybody's an echo chamber. So I know with Bitcoin, there's always a lot of opinions. So we'd love to hear them.
All right, guys, we'll see you on the next video. Take care.
Trade